Today I'm going to be taking a look at this ISDT K2 dual charger. It can be powered from AC and also DC. It comes in this nice sealed box. Now there have been so many chargers released recently, in fact hundreds. I tend to skip them apart from the little handy field chargers, and that is because for the last 3.5 bit years, I think, I've been using the ISDT D2. So with this name, I was assuming here that it is this one's replacement. And this has been absolutely flawless. Like I say, it's charged everything up on the channel that you will have seen for 3.5 years. It's been plugged in constantly, apart from now, to show it in this video. And there's been no failures, you know, it just works all of the time. And when I reviewed this guy, there was another charger out called the HobbyMate Duo D6, and I actually got rid of mine because the fan at the time ran constantly and it sort of made a grinding noise. Now I know people will tell me, oh, firmware came out to fix that. Yeah, it didn't come out for like 1.5 years. And seeing as I was too lazy to just unplug this one, the fan on this one just runs really slowly. It makes no noise whatsoever. In fact, any of my videos that you have seen, this has been running in the background and it does not disturb the audio. One of the biggest complaints of the D2 is that it's AC only. Now this suited me because any charging I do out in the field, I take a little tiny charger, and 200 watts is plenty to parallel charge all of the batteries that I take out on the field. So it's 200 watt with the AC, and there's no DC input. So I don't like having loads of clutter. This is too much clutter for me in the first place. So to have a DC connector here and a separate power supply that's going to be kept in the house anyways, yeah, it'll give me a little bit more watts. However, no, it wasn't needed. This did everything that I wanted to. But it's actually quite a nice form factor, and that's why people went with the D6 Duo, because it also got an XT60 connector on here and you could take it out in the field. This one doesn't have that. So I was thinking, you know, what does this thing need when it comes to an update? Well, the only old thing really that I can see on it here, we've got this little stereo jack, and you have to buy a separate cable if you want to update the firmware on this thing. So this USB here is just a USB out. However, I've had it for 3.5 years, never needed to upgrade the firmware. It's got everything on there that I need today. I think the thing I would want the most out of this would be just a switch, because like I say, it's been powered up the entire time. I just like to have this set up and it just sits there. Don't have to mess with it whatsoever. But how difficult would it be just to have little button on there like you get on PSUs on computers to just, you know, press it and it goes off. My only other complaint really is that after 3.5 years, this rocker here, I think it's got a little bit of dirt or dust perhaps inside it, and it doesn't always select properly. So I would like to see some buttons here rather than, you know, having to press down on it to select, because you can sometimes move it and press down and it selects the wrong one. But other than that, this one is going to be difficult to replace because we've got this USB out here. I use this to charge all of my cameras, including this one that I'm doing this with now, and GoPros, anything like that. Don't really use it with the phone because phones these days are quick charge, and this is just 5 volts and 2 amps, so it takes ages to charge up your phone. But it's great for little GoPros and stuff like that, stuff that, you know, you're not needing to charge in a hurry. Okay, let's have a see what you get in the box. So we have got a manual here, and oh, this is interesting, we have got a screen protector. That's cool actually, because this one here, as you can see, it has gotten quite scratched over the years, so that's welcome. Some stickers, but oh, this is quite a bit bigger than the D2. Yeah, oh yeah, that is much bigger actually. Would you want that in your backpack? Might look quite small here on the camera, but oh yeah, that is quite a bit bigger. You know, if you've got one of these, you can see how small and compact they are. This, yeah, just about pick it up with one hand. So straight away, it's a bigger charger. Are they wanting to replace the D2 series with this, or is this, I think this is a new series on its own. So anything else in the box, just move that to one side. And then it's just the power connector. So yeah, this just peels off here, so we've got a temporary protector on here, which I'll keep on, otherwise, you know, I'll get my fingers all over it. So let's see here if we have got the same connections. It looks like it supports 1 to 6S, so anything that has got a balance port on it that's 2 to 6S will plug in here and here, and of course I use my parallel boards for that. We have got the Bat Go supported, and I don't know why ISDT is sticking with this. Maybe one day they're hoping someone will buy the technology. I actually really like the Bat Go technology. It uses a little pin on here and it sends data from the battery, so it can self-storage charge and it can balance the cells just from the XT60 connector. You can see this one hasn't got it there. You get this slightly orange color on the XT60s there, but yeah, you can't really use that with anything. You can't buy these batteries at the moment, or you really have to look around for second-hand ones or really expensive ones as well. I think there is one battery company out there using it, and it's very expensive. Let's have a look around the rest of the charger. We've got a USB-C here, which is for updating the firmware, but it's also for charging your phone. And have they got rid of the proper USB port? Oh no, they've got rid of that. You see, I don't use this for charging my phone. In fact, I don't like these connectors on this end of anything because they become disconnected so easily. That is the idea of the USB-C, the fact that it can be put in any way around, but it disconnects. You can literally just, you know, yank it out with your foot or something, whereas this one you can't. And all of my chargers for my cameras and stuff like that, they all have one of these this end, so that's a downside for me straight away, what I can see. Now, I do like that we've got the buttons on here. That means that you will get it doing the right function without the rocker, and we've got one for each side, so we can charge both and control both independently. We've got a fan either side on this one rather than the two at the back on this one. Nothing wrong with that. Just, yeah, the size, it's too big to be carrying around in the field. This one, borderline, it stayed in the house. This one, definitely too big for me. So if we look around on here, oh, this is interesting as well. So we have got the AC power connector here, and this is where the DC power supply or a battery could plug in there. So I think it takes up to 34 volts if you are plugging a LiPo in there, and then I think AC is going to be, well, 100 to 240 volts, isn't it? And what they've done is they've put the connectors in the way of each other so that you can't plug one in at the same time. So it's a 90-degree connector that will just go in that way like that, and I have to say it's pretty neat. The problem is that you have to use this connector with it. You have to. So this one here, I've got loads of these connectors everywhere, so many of them, so I'm never short of it. However, you're gonna have to keep this connector with this one, otherwise it's gonna stick out that way and it's not gonna sit flat. Also, I mean, yeah, it's fine, it'll work, you won't be able to plug these two in at the same time, but wouldn't it be better if they had a solution that meant that you couldn't plug them in at the same time? So, you know, I see that they have made a nice use of space here, but I don't know, I feel like it could have been better having these separate and then just have it built into the circuit that you can't plug both in. Don't, you know, rely on this. Okay, let's power this guy up. Oh, that's interesting. So we've got the double beep. the fan did spool up, but only a tiny bit, and then stopped. Now that's a good thing, because something that does always annoy me on this guy is that the fans spool up to full power initially. I don't know if it's because it does a test or something. Can you hear that? It's quite loud. Let's plug this one back in and check out the settings. Okay, so we have got a very nice IPS display, which means that we should be able to see the figures at any angle. It's also nice and bright. We've got the 3 buttons here, and instead of the 2 buttons to select the left or right channel here, we now have these ones in the middle. So if I press this one, we should have a line that shifts that way, and then we are just looking at the information of this left channel here. So if I do that, and then we've got the up and down, and we can see things like the temperature and when the battery's plugged in. I think we have got the battery resistance on here, which, I don't know, each charger gives a different battery resistance figure, and for me, when a battery is wearing out, you can see it when you plug it in after it's been used. You can see the difference in voltages between the cells. So I don't really use the battery resistant thing. This one has got it though, and the D2 doesn't, if you're interested in that. So this one should do the same and switch to the right channel, and it does. I haven't got anything plugged into it at the moment, so we can just see the information there from the AC in, 28.7 volts. So I think that obviously converts it to that with the built-in power supply that's in here from 240 volts here in the UK. So if you actually wanted to charge anything, I think it's going to be a long press, and we've got the usual things that you get with these chargers. So we've got task charge, discharge, which if you want to discharge, don't use one of these. If you've got a LiPo that is fully charged, then it's probably going to take 3 hours to discharge with this. What you need is one of these. This is the ISDT FD200. It will discharge your LiPo in a matter of minutes. Storage charge, however, you should be using a lot. So if you have done your flight, then you can put your batteries onto your parallel board and storage charge them. It does that as quick as charging them, except when it gets to 3.8 volts per cell, it stops. Then we've got destroy. This was a new option on the ISDT chargers recently, and it will take the battery down to 0 volts. But again, that will take absolutely ages to do. So I don't know, I just take my batteries to the recycling place, and you don't need to destroy them. I don't think you should be putting them in the normal bins in the first place. So to exit out of this one, we just actually have to select the option. So I'm going to press charge, and then under chemistry we've got the usual. So we've got high volt LiPo, Li-on, Li-Fi, and then you can change the condition. You can have more volts or less, but you really don't want to go over 4.2. Some of the racers do, they push their stock batteries, but I don't recommend doing that. The cells, it does detect automatically on itself, but you can change it afterwards. But yeah, never really use that function. And then let's check out the current. So it goes all the way up to 20 amp. Again, if you're going to be using the AC input, then you won't be able to get 20 amps out of both of them. What it will do is it will spread the load over both of them, or just the individual one if you're only using one. So if we want to press start, we can start, but there's no battery connected at the moment. You can change the current once the battery is charging, which is something I've always liked, because obviously 20 amp would be far too much for a single battery. So if we go back, you can do that on both sides. Then if I long press both of these buttons, it takes us into the settings. We're currently on dual task, which means these are to be used separately, but there's this new option which I'm not going to use. It's called parallel task, and it means that you can make up a Y connector And if you've got a really big battery, like say, I don't know, 20,000 milliamp, then it can use the power of both of them to send it to a single battery. Never going to use that. Also, this has been an option on some of the other ISDT chargers where you can use one of the outputs as a power supply in itself. So it's basically a pass-through mode from the power supply here outwards. Never use that. You know, if you're working on the bench, maybe it's something you could use, but like I say, never really used it. Do both of these work? Yeah, for the settings. Okay. So system settings, I usually get rid of the beep because it usually annoys me, but a lot of this you don't really need to mess around with. I've got input voltage, backlight's currently on high. I might reduce that actually once I'm done, otherwise this will be showing brightly in the room. Volume, just going to put off because it's just annoying, especially, you know, if you're charging at night. Completion tone, that means like when the battery is completed, is it? I think that is actually tied up to the volume. I hope so, otherwise, you know, there's no way of, you know, stopping it making a noise at night. USB charge is off out of the box. That's unusual, isn't it? Why would they do that? You want that on, and then you'd have to get like an adapter for it if I wanted to charge up my cameras and stuff. I'm really not into it for that. So, you know, it's the split screen. When do you want it going back to split screen? When you just have the single screen. Some of the BatGo settings. Oh, we've got like a dark theme. Oh, that's actually pretty good, actually. Yeah, that might be useful if I'm leaving this thing plugged in, because it's got no blimmin' switch. Keep trickle. So I think that just means once a battery is balanced, it sort of trickle charges it very slow to keep it topped up. Now self-test could be interesting, and we've got all sorts of calibration there and system info, but the reason why I say self-test is that's going to tell us potentially how loud this thing gets, because it's not making any noise. That's a good thing, but let's try self-test, see what happens. Oh, that is loud! That is loud. Okay, yeah, so it's done a fan test, a buck test, a boost test, a discharge test, all in one. It passed, but that's quite loud actually. Yeah. We need to charge a battery to see if it gets that loud, don't I? Okay, so I'm going to first of all charge this 1500 milliamp 4S LiPo. And I'm not going to use a balance board, but usually I would and do multiple batteries. I want to charge this one because it shouldn't make a noise if I charge it at 1C. The fan shouldn't come on, at least it doesn't with the D2, and hopefully that's going to be the case with this one. So the way that you plug it in here, the ground is on this side and the ground's on this side. You can see there's a little notch there, so I don't think it'll let you put it in the wrong way around, but I think it's got protection on it anyways if you do. So let's plug that into there. Straight away I can see that this battery, it's already actually charged a little bit. So if we do that, nothing happens actually, so it looks like we have to go into the left side. Then it tells you the individual cell voltages, so all around about 4.07 volts. What I want to do is unplug that from there and just show you now. If I take out the power from this, and what I want to do is plug this battery in here. Interestingly, it's upside down, so be careful of that. It's not that way. It won't let you put it in the wrong way anyways. Then this should power up. We've got 0 volts there, I guess, because, you know, there's nothing plugged in this side. If I press the left hand side and if I scroll down here, so it's saying input voltage 16.1. It was 16.3 before. Probably the current draw from this just powering up takes it down to 16.1. So yeah, shows you that that's working there. So I could plug a battery in there and transfer the power from that one into this one. You just have to make sure, of course, that you are not draining this below 3.3 volts per cell, otherwise you will kill your battery. I'll show you how rubbish the discharge function is on these chargers. Basically just a tiny fan and some heat sink, and it just goes up in heat. It takes forever. So if we long press that one, go up to task, and then set discharge, and then if we go to current, you can see we've only got the option for 1 amp. We should be able to do more, but of course it doesn't mean that you can. So 1.5 amps, and it's a 1500 milliamp hour battery. If it was even able to do that, that would take an hour. So let's do start and see what happens with that. That's normal for the fans to go straight away in discharge mode. Let's see what the number goes up to. That's it, I think, 0.9 amps. So it's perhaps going to take maybe an hour and a half, something like that, to do one battery. So see if we get an error if you just disconnect it. There we go. Used to get an error when you disconnected it on the other one. Anyways, yeah, look, the fan's still going because it's cooling itself down. Whilst that's doing its thing over there, yeah, there we go, it's stopped. This is what you need to discharge batteries. So no balance lead on this one, but it does a pretty good job anyways. And you know, if the cells are balanced anyways nicely, which they are in this one, it doesn't really matter. You can get a discharger from a coder, and at the end it balances everything up, but you know, you can stick this on a charger afterwards and balance it anyways. I've never needed to, because you know, if it's a healthy battery, then it should discharge healthily at the same time as well. But it should just take, what, 7 minutes for this battery instead of like an hour and a half. And you know, you can make it do it quicker, but I try not to use the full amount of amps, which is 25 amps on this one. I think it can go even higher now in the app. But I think, yeah, this one here is for the number of cells. So it's, we'll just move that there to make sure. Yep, so that's 4S. And then if we go with the amp rating, let's just do let's do 15 amps, and you know, it should be done pretty quickly. Okay, so I have discharged this battery down to what it would be if I'd done a typical flight. So 14.2 volts, to maybe about 5-6 minutes on the fast discharger. So if I press this one here, we can see the individual cell voltages. It's actually quite even. And let's go for a charge. So I press this button in the middle. There we go. And task charge, it's got 4S from just plugging it in. And the current, if we go into there, look at this, actually quite light this. See, we've got 1 to 5. Those are sort of cheat current settings, so you don't have to go all the way down. I'm just going to do 1 amp for now, which is under 1C. So this is a 1500 milliamp 4S, and if I was to charge it at 1C, it'd be 1.5 amps. That's just how it works. But I'm going to do 1 amp, which is a very slow charge, so under 1C. So it takes longer than an hour for this to charge. And I just want to see if it's going to make any noise. So if we go to start. Oh, look at that. The fan's booted up already. Just at 1 amp. Let's see if we've got those resistance figures. So I'm still on that one. Yeah, there we go. The internal resistance. It's pretty good between the cells, really. So yeah, it makes that constant noise, which is kind of annoying because the D2 doesn't do that if you are just at like, you know, 1 amp. So what you should be able to do is change the current. So we're going to current there, and let's just go up to 5 amp. See if the fan gets any faster. It hasn't for now. So it doesn't look like the fan's gotten any faster, but at the same time it's still making a noise, so I wonder if there's sort of like a stock fan setting up to a certain number. Let's find that out. So if I just come in here and stop it, let's put a big battery on and see if it gets even louder with more amps. There's an old knackered 10,000 milliamp hour 4S, and just select 20 amps and then start, see what happens to the fan, see if it gets any faster. Oh yep, straight away, so that it went up. Was that at about 8 amps, and then it's stopped at 12.6. Oh, it's getting louder. So I guess if I wanted to do the full amount of amps, that's what that parallel mode is for. I'm guessing I've no need to do this. 12 amps is fine to charge, you know, this thing up. It'll be done within an hour, and you know, I don't charge large batteries like this, but it's getting louder, it's getting louder. So yeah, that's a little bit loud, that is, so let's stop it. So that's going to be a tricky one for me, that. Let's just unplug this guy, because the D2, if you keep the current setting low like I do, then the fan doesn't turn on until it needs to, but it seems like this one's always on and it's always making a noise. So yeah, I think the fact that the fan is always on rather than on when it needs to be, and the fact that we don't have a normal USB out, it's got this USB-C here, there's no switch on it. Yeah, it does some fancy things, but I'm afraid this isn't going to be replacing the D2. I think we have got a case here of, you know, if it's not broken, then why are you trying to fix it, kind of thing. You know, this one, it just needed a DC input and just a switch for me. Maybe, you know, be able to update it via the USB rather than, you know, this mono cable. But other than that, I think I'm going to be keeping this one. Yeah, the switches are nice, actually. I like the switches. Put the switches on here, and just a blimmin' switch, on off, that's it, that's all we need. That is my review of the ISDT K2 charger. I'll put a link in the description if you wish to get one, as well as a pinned comment, and as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers!